Time traffic alerts to help you find faster ways to get around LA County. It's totally free and helps motorists easily find Fast Track and roadside assistance services. Visit go511.com or dial 511 on your phone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers get their first road win of the season. They were in San Antonio last night and won by 25. Best stat of the night belongs to James Harden. 10 assists and no turnovers in 28 minutes. The Lakers play Utah tonight at Crypto.com. 7 p.m. tip-off on TNT. Sad news in the Lakers family. The brother of former Lakers star Michael Cooper was fatally shot early Sunday morning in Washington Park, a park in Pasadena. Mickey Cooper was gunned down in the same park where he and Michael grew up playing basketball. Pasadena police have a 24-year-old male suspect in custody. Mickey Cooper was 64. UCLA's men's basketball team lost by 2 to number 4 Marquette in the Maui Invitational. The USC women's team got 15 points from freshman Juju Watkins to beat Seton Hall in a first-round tournament game in the Bahamas. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours, now through December 20th. All of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, Ronald Olivier was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for second-degree murder in one of America's most notorious and brutal prisons, the Louisiana State Penitentiary, better known as Angola. He lost his life but found it again inside a prison cell following a miraculous release. He transitioned from incarceration to director, get this, transitioned from incarceration to director of chaplaincy at the Mississippi State Penitentiary. It is quite the story. Ronald Olivier, in his own words today, in hour two. In our third hour, our resident philosopher, Dr. Lewis Gordon, is back. Today's topic, how to live more ethically and more courageously, and can't we use some of that right about now, how to live more ethically, how to live more courageously with our resident philosopher, Dr. Lewis Gordon, today in our third and final hour. But in this first hour, let's talk politics with the editor-at-large of The Forward, Robin Washington. Robin, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Tavis?
Man, if I complain, that'd be an ingrate. I'm delighted to have you on. Delighted we have an hour. There's a whole lot of political stuff to unpack. I want to start, we'll come to it a little bit later, but I want to start by playing this clip to tell you sort of where I want to go in this hour. This is a clip of, I just mentioned Louisiana, and that notoriously brutal Angola prison. We'll talk to Ronald Olivier today in our second hour. But speaking of Louisiana Senator John Kennedy was on Fox News last night talking, I believe, to Martha McCallum on her show, and he just went full-bore racist, many would argue, with this particular comment. This is Louisiana Senator John Kennedy last night on Fox News.
And they have concluded that Vice President Harris is not capable, that when her IQ gets to 75, she should sell.
All right, Miles, cue that up one more again. It's a short clip, and so I want to make sure that you heard it. This is again Louisiana Senator John Kennedy deriding in a rather derisive way last night Kamala Harris. Play it again, Miles.
And they have concluded that Vice President Harris is not capable. That when her IQ gets to 75, she should sell.
When her IQ gets to 75, she should sell. All right, we'll talk about that as we move through this hour. It's getting stranger and stranger and crazier and more racist and more misogynistic by the day. We'll unpack that a little bit later in this hour. John Kennedy on Kamala Harris. Let me start, though, with the news of the hour, the news of the day. Israel and Hamas are close to a hostage deal in this 46-day war. There may be a cessation in the war, at least briefly, if this deal can be worked out. We're live on the air, so this thing could change by the minute. If it does, I will let you know. But the hopes of a hostage exchange are rising even as we speak on the eve of Thanksgiving. Your thoughts, Robin, for starters, on what it would mean if there could be a pause in this war beyond the few hours that we have been getting, and what this hostage exchange might mean in the days ahead, if anything.
Well, you as a radio person, and actually I have a radio show myself, the worst thing you could have is dead air. But I would love dead air right now. I would love to hear that the deal has been worked out and you and I have nothing to talk about, So, yeah, I mean, that's, the question of the hour, day, month, year, when and how will this be worked out? I hope it is being worked out. Even with partners that are just impossible to figure out, I always have faith that there's something going on behind the scenes that we're just not privy to. And so, this may be it. But on the other hand, the realist in me says maybe not, too. I mean, for instance, whose hostages are we talking about? Again, I hope this is outdated by the time my voice, lands on the airways here. But, are we talking about Israeli citizens? Are we talking about foreign nationals? I wrote a piece for the Forward about the foreign nationals that were, first of all, murdered on October 7th, and then secondly, kidnapped. And the former, the 18, the numbers are all over the board. Every time you look up how many Thai nationals there were, how many Nepalese, the numbers are just crazy, and from reputable sources too. But in the best analysis I could get, it seemed like about 18.5 or let's say 20% of those who were killed on October 7th may not have been either Israeli or even Jewish. And so these people were irrelevant to this struggle. And then 28%, almost a third, of the hostages are, again, foreign nationals from Thailand, from Nepal, two Tanzanians, one who was just announced tragically is now dead, this weekend. So, are all these governments, of course they're all working on it in some way, but is the deal for all of them, some of them, or are people looking at it parochially and just worrying about their own?
Let's put a pin in that for the moment. When we come forward, you said a couple of things now that I think are worthy of interrogating, unpacking. One is, and most folk haven't focused in on this, who in fact really was killed on October 7th. If you're saying that most of them were not Israeli or even Jewish, but many of them were foreign nationals, that doesn't mean that can't be a pretext for war, but it does color the conversation somewhat. There's a great deal more I want to talk about. Just getting started with Robin Washington, editor-at-large at The Forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom. Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac perfection like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat in the Lexus 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Dilly, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450 mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection consistent with the CHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing to keep the Grinch away from the toy drive.
Who's going to deliver the toys to the kids?
What about me, the Grinch?
No.
Yep, even easier than that.
You steal the presents one time.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Capital One NA, member FDIC. Copyright Dr. Seuss Enterprises. Copyright Turner Entertainment Company.
Did you know addiction to drugs like meth or cocaine is a disease and not a choice? But getting help is. If you have stimulant use disorder, you, your family, and friends may have a lot of questions, including where to start. Choose Change California can help. Make a change today and find a proven treatment option for you at choosechangeca.org.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Tavis Smiley in conversation with Robin Washington, who is the editor-at-large at The Forward. And it just so happens that Robin Washington, I didn't want to lead with this because it's not the end-all, be-all, but it does inform this conversation, and I'll move in this direction in a moment. But he happens to be black and Jewish, so he is a Jew of color. And he's the first Jew of color I've had a chance to talk to in these past 46 days since this war began. And so I want to sort of probe that and, pardon the pun, interrogate how that colors his point of view about this situation, this sad situation, given that he is both black and Jewish, again, a Jew of color. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But you said something a few moments ago, Robin, that I want to come back to right quick, and that is that your research and the work you've done at the Forward suggests that many of the persons initially killed on October 7th were neither Israeli or Jewish. Tell me more about that, and what I'm really driving toward is what that means. I mean, we're already 46 days in now, but if most of the folk killed on that day, not that every life isn't precious, not that all life doesn't have equal value, not that the attack didn't happen inside the borders of the nation state of Israel, but if most of the folk killed that day, or certainly a good number of them, were not even Israeli or Jewish, then how does that reframe, to the extent that it can or does, this conversation? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's not most. It's about maybe up to 20%.
20%, okay, fair
but
enough.
Even if it were 10 or whatever, I mean, it means that because unfortunately the reporting hasn't really paid attention to that. There have been a few reports. So Reuters has something good and BBC had something good, but they've been sporadic, which is why I decided to go out and do it.
Right.
And so what you've seen is, Hamas killed Israelis or Hamas killed Jews, or that the assignment was to kill as many Jews as possible, or whatever. And indeed they did that. And as you said, look, absolutely, killing Jews is not acceptable. I would not be on board with that. Killing anybody is not acceptable. So whoever they went out to kill that day, of course, that's horrible. But if the whole thing is based on a getting rid of Israel, removing Israel from the river to the sea, or getting rid of Jews, then why in the world would you kill a Thai national? And they had to know who they were. The foreign nationals, by and large, in Israel were foreign workers from Thailand, from the Philippines, who actually took the place of Palestinian workers that no longer were able to do so after the Second Intifada. But it's not just Israel. It's all over the Middle East. You have, particularly from Asia and also from other parts of Africa, you have foreign nationals working in these countries. And so there's no way they didn't recognize, a Thai man or a Filipina caregiver. I mean, there's just absolutely no way. And you do have to wonder, how does this fit into whatever the goal was?
Yeah. So here's the question. Excuse me. The question I want to ask now, to your point about at least 20% of these, or somewhere in that neighborhood, of these persons killed initially in this strike by Hamas inside Israel on October 7th. That's what started all of this. If up to 20% of them were foreign nationals, what strikes me as interesting is that we, to your point, haven't heard a lot about this in the reporting, number one. But number two, none of these other nation states, unless you know something I don't know, which is certainly possible, none of these other nation states have sort of raised their backs or raised their ire about Hamas and what they did on October 7th, killing persons of their own country. So what I'm getting at is that if 20% of these persons who were killed, just making this up, follow my logic here. If 20% of these persons killed in that October 7th attack had been Americans, you can rest assured that America would be doing more right now than just giving aid, giving weapons, giving money, giving support to Israel. America would have something to say about that itself, and I suspect that we'd likely be involved in militarily ourselves. But none of these other nation states whose foreign nationals were killed, to my knowledge, has jumped up and said anything or made their own effort to go after Hamas, as it were. And if I'm right about that, how do I read that, and how do you read that, more importantly?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, now they have done things. There's no question. The Thai government is working through intermediaries. Qatar, of course, is the intermediary for so many. And one interesting point, by the way, is the number of Thais who are held hostage has been up and down. I've got everything ranging from 14 to 54, and both of those numbers come from the Thai government. That's like a ridiculous range. There may be a political reason for that. Maybe in Thailand they don't want to say there's 54 hostages, or who knows? There's so much, what I said earlier about so much going on behind the scenes that we'll never know. But all that being said, yes, it is the narrative that happened really from day one, that this was an attack on Israelis and Jews that just overpowered everything. And I blame our friends in the media, our colleagues, for not stopping and saying, wait a minute, are you sure all of those were? when 9/11 happened, there were a percentage of people at the Twin Towers who were foreign nationals too. And if you recall, we had a lot of support before we got into the war with Iraq, right? Internationally, because these people lost people too. These countries lost people too. So if that didn't happen, this narrative got to be so overpowering. Even today, I see things like we use the forward photos from Getty, and I'm not throwing them under the bus here, but I've seen so many of the photos that say, up to 200 Israeli hostages are being held. And it's like, dude, whoever wrote that cut line, it's not correct.
So let me ask you this, just because I'm curious. At this point, I repeat, we're 46 days in. We will see if there is a cessation in this war momentarily as hopes again are rising for a hostage exchange. In case you've just tuned in, I mentioned at the top of this hour that Israel and Hamas are close to, we are told, a hostage deal. Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi, the Prime Minister of Israel, has made some comments about that he is hopeful that this is about to happen sooner than later. And so we will see what happens today and whether or not that comes to fruition. But that said, I'm curious, Robin, and Monday morning quarterbacking oftentimes doesn't matter, but had the news media not gone full bore with the headline, Hamas kills Jews, as if there were no other persons who were killed, as if 20% of those who were murdered on October 7th were not Israeli or not Jewish, if they had nuanced the story in that way, if they had nuanced the narrative in that way, and nuance might not even be the right word, if they had just told the truth, told the whole story initially that it's not just about Hamas and Jews, how might that nuance in the narrative, how might that narrative change? I mean, what might that have meant?
One thing that would have meant is that a good number of that 20% were not just foreign nationals, but of color. Mm-hmm. So Asian. Again, 2 Tanzanians. I made a big point to mention the 2 Tanzanians because, I love my Black Lives Matter brothers and sisters, and I've been down with everything, along those lines too. And by the way, Black Lives Matter is a fact. It's not necessarily a political statement. It is a fact, okay? But whoever killed the Tanzanians, obviously Black lives didn't matter to them. Mm-hmm. So it changes the whole narrative that that Israel is a Eurocentric colonial settler nation, and that, we're ridding the place of white people who are racist anyway. Mm. It's just, not to mention Judaism itself is multicultural. You mentioned me. I'm going to correct you. You said you haven't talked to a Jew of color in the last 46 days. Actually, your philosopher, my dear friend and brother, Lewis Gordon. Okay, mm-hmm. We are very both prominently, and not shy and proudly Black and Jewish. So you got 2 of them on your show. So look very far to find them.
Yeah, no, I look forward to our conversation with Lewis Gordon in that third hour. Again, he's one of our. Right. We have 2 or 3 philosophers that we talk to frequently on this program. He's brilliant, as you know, and we look forward to that dialogue with him in our third hour. But since you went there, let me just ask you, and your phone line is starting to act up on me just a little bit. Let me let Miles talk to you for a second, see if we can fix this, because you're sounding like you're warped a little bit and underwater, and I don't want that. But what I want to ask Robin here in a moment, given his teeing it up, is what his being Black and Jewish means for how he sees this. And let me just frame this for you, at least as I see it. So we've been talking about this for 46 days now, obviously, given that this war started after this attack by Hamas inside Israel. And what's fascinating about this for me is that on my home station here in Los Angeles, KBLA Talk 1580, and on other stations across the country, other Black media outlets, online, everywhere you look, there is, even though most Black folk in this country are of the Christian faith, most of us, I think it's fair to say, I've done no independent research on this, but many, certainly Black people, are sympathetic to the position of the Palestinians. I'm going to leave it at that for a lot of reasons. In part because of what we've endured in this country, we are sympathetic to the position that the Palestinians find themselves in. It is an apartheid state, to quote Jimmy Carter. To quote somebody else, it is the world's largest open-air prison. and the killing of innocent babies and young people, and cutting off electricity and cutting off water, etc., etc., etc. Many African Americans, for a variety of reasons, are sympathetic to the Palestinian position, even though many of us happen to be Christian. That's an interesting dynamic for me just to begin with. But when you happen to be both black and Jewish, Robin Washington, how does that frame, how does that color how you see this situation?
Well, I mean, again, all lives matter. I never thought I'd be saying that, by the way, because when all lives matter showed up, it was like this, not very informed answer to don't all lives matter to Black lives matter. But of course, let me put it this way. I've been hearing people say, or at least in the beginning of all this, pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian. Time out. You can be both. We're talking about, the whole world's talking about non-binary these days. And I don't know how you could have a non-binary position or a binary position on life, that this one matters and this one doesn't. So, there's absolutely no question. I'm pro-Palestinian, okay? But I also believe that Israel has the right to exist. And I also would say there's a lot of nuance in the last 75 years of how this situation got to be. And it should not have continued like this. And so there's no question. I'll tell you right now, something that's bothered me is you see these memes of the little Israeli kid and the little Palestinian kid, and they're picking flowers together and hugging each other. That's beautiful, except that's not true, because that Palestinian kid is going home to what? And that Israeli kid is going home to, what sort of environment? I mean, it's a classic question of equity. So, you have to nuance all this. You have to realize that, yes, the different playing fields are going on and all that. But that being said, you go back to October 7th, nothing justifies what happened then. I mean, it's just the horrors of it. And they're not the only culture that's done horrors. Every culture in this planet has done, unfortunately, horrors against somebody else. But this happened, and absolutely, they should use means to fight for their freedom, or however you want to put it. But that was just beyond the pale.
Have there been a last question on this, and we'll move forward? But has there been any sort of hue and cry? Has there been some statement made by Jews of color as a group or organization since this started 6 days ago that I'm unaware of?
No, in short, the answer is no. And you know what? I've thought about that. I was one of the co-founders of a group 30 years ago now, the Alliance of Black Jews. And we don't quite exist, but we do have a network of people. And it has occurred to me that, we probably should have a statement. But again, things change so quickly, and there's, just so many, it's really hard to keep up. By the way, I'm a journalist, so it's a little tough for me to craft a statement and then cover it.
I understand. No, I understand. I was just asking whether there's something about that I had missed. And many people don't know that there are Jews of color. I remember my very first trip to Israel, probably 25 years ago now. My very first trip when I discovered and had dinner one night with just a house full of Jews of color. It was really fascinating for me to wrestle with that. And so since that time, of course, I've been more enlightened about that. But many people just don't even think about that. You can be, to your point, both black and Jewish. I digress on that point. There is more political news to get to. Again, in case you've just tuned in, we are waiting on an announcement that could be coming any minute now that there will be a ceasefire, at least temporarily, a cessation of hostilities temporarily, as we are expecting news about a prisoner exchange, a hostage exchange, I should say, not prisoner, but hostage exchange between Israel and Hamas. More on that if it breaks while we're on the air. But there's more news to get to. We'll get to that John Kennedy clip I played a moment ago of his sort of dissing Kamala Harris, the vice president. There is more Trump news, as there always is. You're listening to Robin Washington, editor-at-large at The Forward, right now on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when they switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Toledo, Ohio police are working to locate a man that has not been heard from in more than 2 weeks. Thomas White Jr.'s mother said she last heard from her son on Facebook on November 6th and that no one has been able to get in contact with him since. She tells police that her son was recently assaulted and that he has expressed suicidal thoughts since the incident. Thomas White Jr. is described as a black male standing 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighing 185 pounds. Tiger Woods, who is black, is set to make his first competitive start in 7 months. Woods has committed to playing in the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas starting November 30th. He was forced to withdraw from the Masters in April after suffering from constant pain due to an ankle injury that resulted in surgery in May. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Looking for a better way to get around LA? SoCal 511 gives you real-time traffic alerts to help you find faster ways to get around LA County. It's totally free and helps motorists easily find fast track and roadside assistance services. Visit go511.com or dial 511 on your phone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. The Clippers get their first road win of the season. They were in San Antonio last night and won by 25. Best stat of the night belongs to James Harden. 10 assists and no turnovers in 28 minutes. The Lakers play Utah tonight at Crypto.com, 7 p.m. tip-off on TNT. Sad news in the Lakers family. The brother of former Lakers star Michael Cooper was fatally shot early Sunday morning in Washington Park, a park in Pasadena. Mickey Cooper was gunned down in the same park where he and Michael grew up playing basketball. Pasadena police have a 24-year-old male suspect in custody. Mickey Cooper was 64. UCLA's men's basketball team lost by 2 to number 4 Marquette in the Maui Invitational. The USC women's team got 15 points from freshman Juju Watkins to beat Seton Hall in a first-round tournament game in the Bahamas. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
In association with KBLA Talk 1580, the Terry Claiborne Foundation presents its 26th annual holiday party, Saturday, December 9th, featuring live entertainment, celebrity appearances, plus food and drinks. There is a cover charge for this party of the season, but not if you're one of our special guests. All you have to do is go to our website at KBLA1580.com and sign up. That's it, that's all. Just sign up at KBLA1580.com and you could win entrance to the soiree of the season. But whether you win or not, get a ticket, support the kids, and come join us on the red carpet in your semi-formal club attire and celebrate the season with KBLA Talk 1580 and the Terry Claiborne Foundation as we collect toys for the youth in our community. That's Saturday, December 9th, 1110 South La Cienega Boulevard, just south of Olympic. It's a holiday party with a purpose.
I'm Terry Claiborne. It's going to be a party. Come hang out with us.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Do you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare? The new LA Care health plan called LA Care Medicare Plus, HMO DSNP, can help you get the most out of your health plan for $0 premium. LA Care is here to provide Angelenos with access to quality health care at an affordable cost. For $0 premium, you can get full benefits from vision coverage and in-home support services to prescription drug coverage, plus more. Call 855-688-1479. 855-688-1479.
Don't miss the last days of Black Friday deals at Target.
Save up to 50% on select tech and video games. Plus, save up to 40% on select small appliances, 40% off pajamas for the family, and so much more. And get free shipping when you spend $35 or use your red card at Target.com. But hurry, these Black Friday deals end Saturday. Get low prices and great Black Friday deals now, only at Target. Exclusions apply.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look, and unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at the gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Our guest in this hour is Robin Washington. He is the editor-at-large at The Forward. And we're delighted to have him on as we talk some trending political stories in this first hour today. I played this at the top of the hour. In case you've just tuned in, we're going to play a game. This is John Kennedy, senator out of Louisiana, who was on Fox News last night and had this to say about our vice president.
And they have concluded that Vice President Harris is not capable, that when her IQ gets to 75, she should sell.
When her IQ gets to 75, she should sell. So I'm going to play with fire here. Not my first or last time, Robin, playing with fire. But there are at least two ways to sort of process this United States senator dissing the vice president in that way. The first way is rather obvious. It is dismissive. It is derisive. It is discriminatory. It is misogynist. It is racist. It is. It's all of that. And to my mind, there's no question about that. And yet, I was thinking before coming on the air today about all the times back in the day, many of us dogged George Bush about his IQ. And I'm not defending George Bush in the least bit. And I was just saying, a colleague and I were just talking in that break, there are any number of things we could criticize Kamala Harris for. Being stupid obviously ain't one of them. Kamala Harris may have 99 problems, but being dumb ain't one of them. So on the one hand, there's no doubt about the fact that comment, to my mind, is beyond the pale. No doubt about that. On the other hand, again, we dogged George Bush pretty badly when he was making up words and couldn't get his subject and verb to agree. We demonized George Bush about his IQ. We did the same for those who remember this. We did the same thing to Dan Quayle when he couldn't spell potato. And so we have a history in this country of being pretty mean-spirited when people say or do things that we don't like, when they move in ways that we don't agree with, where we sort of diss them by diminishing their IQ. So I'm just trying to figure out how I should read this moment. Is he just, is it racist? Is it misogynistic for him to say that about the vice president because she happens to be a black woman? Or are we just, frankly, a country that just engages in these ad hominem attacks across the board?
Well, I'm going to put on my elitist hat, and he could accuse me of that all he wants, but and I'll point out that he used a mixed metaphor there, right? When her IQ gets to 75, she should sell. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? You selling stocks, or you counting IQ? Make up your mind, right? It gets to which way are you going? I'm not sure if he's saying up or down or whatever. I mean, and then lastly, is he qualified to talk about that? Did he administer the test? I mean, it just is beyond the pale. It's ridiculous. The only thing I would say about that is Kamala is a big girl. George Bush was a big boy. I was an editorial page editor at the time, and boy, did we have vitriol going. Exactly as you said, one way or the other. And As an editorial page editor of the daily newspaper, I made sure we had some stability and that people couldn't just call people's names. The exception was the President of the United States. Okay, he can take it, He's kind of used to it. It comes with the territory. So I'm not worried about Kamala. If anything, she'd probably get a chuckle out of this. One thing I will point out to be, bring it down to reality and seriousness. Every time I hear that guy's name, John Kennedy, I think you said Dan Quayle. You know John Kennedy. Tomorrow is the 60th anniversary of one of the worst days in this country's history. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone named Kennedy who's not related or whatever, to be saying anything unstatesmanlike like that is just an abomination. Period.
Yeah. You said three things now. I asked one question. You said three things I want to interrogate, which means that you're dropping jewels here that I want to go back and kind of pick up right quick. One is, let me just start with the last point you made. It is hard to believe. I was literally just reading about this. Hard to believe it was 60 years ago tomorrow that the country endured that Kennedy assassination that you referenced a moment ago. And one of the reasons why it doesn't seem, I am not 60. Many listening to this program right now are not quite 60. One of the reasons why it doesn't seem like 60 years ago, though, is because this is one of those conversations that has gone on perennially for 60 years. It's a conversation that has never ceased. A conversation has never stopped. The books continue to come. How do you read the fact that something that happened 60 years ago doesn't seem like 60 years ago because the conversation has never ceased?
Because we never really got an answer, with all due respect to the Warren Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get into conspiracy theories because it was such a horrible, what do you want to call it, paradigm shifting, event. Just everything that wasn't supposed to happen happened. And think how much changed in the world because of that. Ironically, this is horrible, but we wouldn't have gotten the Civil Rights Act if it hadn't been for his assassination.
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy would not have been able to get that past the Southern Democratic senators, and it took a Southern Democrat, Johnson, to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, history works in some weird ways, but, believe me, I live history. I'm fascinated by it. I was around. I'm 66. And I was in first grade, and I remember the teacher coming in and telling me about that. So it's something that definitely had an impact. Having said all that, as you said, I'm throwing out all kinds of things at once. It does distress me, and I guess I'm showing my age, that, so many people have a lack of understanding of history. I think they're excited by the conspiracies. I think they're excited by, Kennedy or whatever. But, how many people are really unpacking all this history? I'm going to tell you something right now that's going on that sort of bring it all together is Netanyahu, okay?
Mm-hmm.
However you slice it, you could be for him, against him, or whatever. He messed up, all right? His whole thing was Israel will be secure. And the whole thing, as you described it as apartheid, people agree or disagree with that. His whole thing was wall off Palestinians, put them somewhere else. They're not going to bother us. Well, he messed up.
Mm-hmm.
You would think he should be out on his you-know-what immediately. But it doesn't necessarily happen in history. It did happen to Golda Meir.
Yeah.
After the 1973 war, she was out in the spring of 1974. And who could be more beloved as the Israeli prime minister than Golda Meir?
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, you mentioned George W. Bush. 9/11 didn't hurt him. He was reelected after that. He was highly popular.
Yeah.
And Roosevelt survived and thrived after Pearl Harbor. So, it's I don't know what you take away from that, but you at least know those things and you put it in.
No, it's a powerful frame. I'm glad you raised it. What I take away from it, to your not at all rhetorical question, is that history is a strange force. And the winds blow the way they blow, and sometimes it doesn't make much sense, particularly in retrospect. But I've said repeatedly, and this audience knows, I believe for quite some time that Bibi Netanyahu is the wrong person. He's just the wrong person. And there have been wrong persons on the other side, so it's not just about him, but he is the wrong person to do what needs to be done in that region of the world. And so he didn't just make a mistake. I just think he's the wrong person across the board for a variety of reasons. He's the one that wanted people. He supported Hamas at one point. Again, he thought his political strategy was that, it's best to deal with them and to fund them, quite frankly. So he's made a number of mistakes, as you well know, Robin, over the years. And I just think he's the wrong person. When we come forward, though, you mentioned the word civility, and I want to come to that. Because to your point, Kamala's a big girl. She can take it. Presidents are big boys. They can take it. And yet, should they have to? And I could spend hours just talking about this, but the incivility in this country is completely is out of control. And I want to just spend a few minutes talking to you about civility, if I can, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from Unapologetically Progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
When you're young, life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. But there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
I think I can weave these two things together. Robin Washington. Robin Washington is the editor-at-large at The Forward, our guest in this hour for the remainder of this hour, another 10 minutes. A few things I want to get to right quick. And so, again, I think I can weave these two things together. I mentioned there's some Trump news, and there is. Trump was on his Truth Social platform yesterday, and he has called for a total revamping of these debates. Not just revamping, he's actually insisting that they stop these Republican debates. He's citing the most recent poll, the Harvard-Harris poll, that shows Trump at 67%. So these debates continue, but the numbers keep going in his direction, number one. Number two, this most recent poll, the Harvard-Harris poll, finds that in a hypothetical two-way matchup, if the election were held today, Trump would beat President Biden 48 to 41% in a two-way matchup. And so, again, these polls just keep coming out. I mentioned David Axelrod yesterday, the guy who helped Obama get elected, the guy who helped put Joe Biden on the ticket with Barack Obama. He has come out publicly and said he thinks Joe Biden needs to step aside. That's David Axelrod. So it's getting crunk. It's getting funky, as we say around here. But Trump is citing this Harvard-Harris poll, again, that shows him at 67% for the Republican nomination and beating Biden in a two-way matchup, hypothetically, 48 to 41%. And that seems to mirror all the polls we've seen of late, New York Times, Cinema poll, all these polls showing that Trump is beating Biden in a head-to-head matchup and beating him in these key battleground states. And yet, I shouldn't say and yet, I should say and probably because of that, Trump and his language is getting more and more verbose. He's been using this word vermin and the word sick, but this word vermin combined with other words he's using are reminding people of other fascists, other dictators around the globe. He's choosing his words very carefully, and there are people getting more and more concerned about the language that he is now starting to deploy in his public pronouncements, in his public posts. It's getting, again, too eerily similar to Hitler and other people who use this kind of language in their assent. And so the flip side of all that is how we engage in civil discourse in this country, civility, the issue that Robin Washington raised moments ago. When we come forward in our remaining moments, I'm going to let Robin respond to those two things that I think I've tried at least to weave together, the issue of civility and Donald Trump's increasing incivility. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA reminds you that when we fight, we win, and we don't black down. LA Community Action Network, or LA CAN, was formed in 1999 when 25 residents of downtown LA came together and acknowledged the problems that existed in their community and made a commitment to do something about those problems, to stand together, organize, and become a force in the community that demands change. Civil rights and preventing the criminalization of poverty are their core projects. In addition, they take on women's rights, the human right to housing, and healthy food access. LA CAN also has projects focused on economic development, civic participation, voter engagement, and community media. While downtown LA remains their home base, with a particular emphasis on the Skid Row community, in 2007, they expanded their housing and healthy food access work into South Central Los Angeles. LA CAN believes that power for low-income people and people of color is achieved through a large, active, and well-informed member base that utilizes a multitude of methods to advance their messages and goals. If you'd like to join the Los Angeles Community Action Network and organize people to fight back against oppression, please visit cangress.org. That's cangress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Robin Washington, who is the editor-at-large at The Forward, and we're wrapping up this hour talking politics before we move on to our second and third hours today that are going to be empowering for you. Robin, I tried to weave these two things together. The Trump's comments of late, calling people vermin, and some other language I can't use on the radio. But this language is getting him eerily closer and closer to the sorts of fascist language that others have used around the globe in years past, be it Hitler, Mussolini. I could run a long list of these persons, but that language is starting to concern people. And I'm seeing more and more pieces being written by journalists like yourself about his language, which leads me back to the point you raised earlier about civility. We played the clip from John Kennedy on Fox News last night, senator out of Louisiana, talking about Kamala Harris's IQ getting to 75. So incivility is all around us. What say you about that in the months and years to come, certainly as we move through this presidential election season?
Well, yeah, as far as civility and Trump is concerned, forget about that. That ship sailed long ago when he was talking about grabbing people by, you know what, and all that kind of stuff. So we're done. that one, forget about it. The rest of us, civility is depends on or is part and parcel to empathy, okay? And it's a quality that human beings are just not very good at. Empathy means understanding somebody else, you know, appreciating what it would be like to be in their shoes. It's not sympathy. It doesn't mean that I totally feel for you, I'm so sorry, or whatever. It means I understand what you're like. So, you know, what you're going through. Look, I was a daily newspaper editor, and I would tell my crime reporters that they needed to, two things I said. One, if somebody is accused of a horrible crime, all right, and that first day they're in jail and they've got no one speaking for them, no defense attorney has been appointed yet, and you got nothing but the police report saying blah, blah, horrible stuff they did, try to find the person's grandmother. Grandma is always going to say something nice about you, you know? And then if you can't do that, at least put at the end of the stories, and we did this at the paper I ran, we said, as in all cases, you know, Billy Bob Jones is innocent until proven guilty. Okay? I mean, that's because imagine yourself as his grandmother waking up in the morning reading this, you know? And you know, it doesn't mean that you don't think he did it. It doesn't mean, you know, he's a nice person. He could be horrible. But just imagine as the other person. And, you know, this is where my duality perhaps informs me in the way I was raised by my parents, is to think of, I say that when I'm in African-American circles, I'll bring up a Jewish point. When I'm in Jewish circles, I'll bring up a black point. When I'm in black Jewish circles, I'll bring up a Tierra del Fuego point. Okay? Just to keep everybody thinking there's always somebody else. There's always another side. And if you do that, it doesn't automatically guarantee you be civil. You know, sometimes as a newspaper editor, I've used choice language, but it means that you're at least respectful of people.
Nope, I'll leave it there. Respect for people. That's the key. Robin Washington, editor-at-large at The Forward. Robin, good to have you on. All the best to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Toledo, Ohio police are working to locate a man that has not been heard from in more than 2 weeks. Thomas White Jr.'s mother said she last heard from her son on Facebook on November 6th and that no one has been able to get in contact with him since. She tells police that her son was recently assaulted and that he has expressed suicidal thoughts since the incident. Thomas White Jr. is described as a black male standing 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighing 185 pounds. Tiger Woods, who is black, is set to make his first competitive start in 7 months. Woods has committed to playing in the Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas starting November 30th. He was forced to withdraw from the Masters in April after suffering from constant pain due to an ankle injury that resulted in surgery in May. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Looking for a better way to get around LA? SoCal 511 gives you real-time traffic alerts to help you find...
Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers get their first road win of the season.